Okay, Andy, let's take a look at your essay here about father staying home, mothers working. Let's see. Nowadays, it's increasingly common that fathers are at home with their kids while mothers are at work. In my opinion, this is beneficial to our society, mostly because it improves equality between the genders and strengthens the father-child-children bond. We usually call it father-child, okay? So single here. But yeah, I think that's lovely. It's nice. Let's see. Remember something else though. It asked you also what the reasons are. So rather than just saying that it's beneficial, and that's fine that you did it, but you also needed to say there are numerous reasons for this. And if you want, you can include really briefly what those are. So you could say, in my opinion, this is because of increased educational and employment opportunities for women, and it is beneficial to our society, mostly because it improves equality, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so when you do this, make sure that you include something about both questions, okay? All right, so the reasons for this recent trend are twofold. I like that. That's a nice first sentence there. Firstly, women in the developed world are more focused on their careers than before, being fully accepted in all professional fields as an equal. In the past, there were many restrictions for women working in certain professions, but now they gain full acceptance. I would have said they have gained because you wrote now. They have gained full acceptance. Many political parties and movements in the past had gender equality as one of their core goals. Their work has been fulfilled. No, you didn't say filled. Hang on. Their work has been fruitful. Thanks to them, we see laws enforcing equal gender opportunities in many Western countries. Okay. I don't know how much I love this. I kind of feel like this argument doesn't really help you. So let me see. Uh, let me see about this for a second. I was trying to follow your train of thought. So, uh, they're more focused on their career, so they're accepted. In the past, there were restrictions, but now they have gained acceptance. Maybe you could have said, maybe it's the link that doesn't work here. So maybe what you could have said is, this is in part because of the work of many political parties which have had gender equality as one of their core goals. Done. Okay? And then I wouldn't have written the rest of this. So let's keep going. Secondly, more men embrace their feminine side and want to spend more time with their children. I like that, their feminine side. It was a long time ago. No, that doesn't sound like natural English. You could have said, a long time ago, society looked down on men showing their emotions, being sensitive, or even crying, whereas these days it's widely accepted in the Western world. For example, a recent Oxford study showed that over 80% of men in developed countries are comfortable showing their emotions. Now, okay, this whole stuff about the emotions is fine, but it's one thing to show your emotions, and it's quite another thing to not work and instead to stay home with your children. So rather than giving us all these examples and all this development about emotions, I would have preferred you to say something about children. You said they want to spend more time with their children. So why don't you say this instead? A long time ago, society looked down on men who cared for their children, tending to their, physical and emotional needs. Whereas these days, it's widely accepted in the Western world. For example, a recent Oxford study showed that over 80% of men in developed countries are comfortable changing a diaper and feeding a baby. Okay, for example, all right, just to show you how you want to link it back to this idea of fathers in the child care role. So that's fine. What I feel like I'm kind of missing here is why can't both of the people work? Like why great women are, doing it for themselves as the song says. They're, out there making money, they're working. Why would men decide to stay home? Like why can't we just hire a nanny? Okay? So I would have liked if you could have looked into this as well. But I realized you don't really have a ton of time to do this. That's what I would have liked. But again, going back to what you actually wrote, get rid of some of the stuff about the emotions and talk more about how it's more socially acceptable for fathers to take care of their children. That for me is more important. All right, let's keep going. The phenomenon of switching roles between fathers and mothers has two main advantages. The first is that it supports gender equality. You know what I want here? The first of which is that. That makes it a better link here because this comma doesn't do as much of a job as you think it does. Okay? A lot of people love to use a comma and they think, oh, great, I can separate a million sentences if I just put a comma. Not the case. So let's try it again. The phenomenon of switching roles between fathers and mothers has two main advantages, the first of which is that it supports gender equality. The idea that men and women alike should have the same opportunities. Fine. Modern society strived for gender equality for a long time. It took centuries for it to become widely accepted. Again, look, comma, not doing what you want it to do. You can't just take two sentences that are totally separate in terms of their ideas and just, smush them together linked by a comma. It's not enough. Okay? So you're going to have to do a little more than that. So, modern society strived for gender equality for a long time, requiring centuries for it to become widely accepted. Now that's good. That makes it a dependent clause and it links back to this, okay? All right, now, not only does gender equality create, without the S, equal opportunities, but improves society as a whole. All right, here you need a structure called inversion. It's well illustrated by an extensive UN study concluding that gender equality is one of the pillars of modern society. The second benefit is that it strengthens the relationship between father and his children, mainly thanks to spending more time together. Society talks more about the importance of this father-daughter and father-son relationship. And in fact, many studies support this. For example, a recent Harvard research, or you don't use a in front of research. So it's a recent Harvard study. Or, for example, recent Harvard research demonstrated that a strong father-child relationship has huge psychological advantages for both father and their little ones. Fine. Fathers and their little ones, because it's there, it's not his. In conclusion, the reasons behind the gender role switching are equal job opportunities and men embracing their feminine side. I believe this to be a beneficial trend because it supports the gender equality and strengthens the father-child relationships. Get rid of the here. In the foreseeable future, it's believed this phenomenon will gain even more support across modern society. All right, good. So, Andy, I really like what you've done here. Okay, yes, I'm pointing out some mistakes, some minor details, but on the whole, I think it's a nice essay. You use some really good vocabulary. I like stuff about like the feminine side and like gender equality. You may want to be careful with overusing the term gender equality. Take a look at this. Gender equality 1, gender equality 2, gender equality 3, and gender equality 4. So be careful about that. Try to switch it up a little bit. Try to use some other language that carries the same general meaning but doesn't make use of the same words over and over again. Okay. And then that other stuff, like you tried to use some nice like father-son relationship, father-daughter, but then you kind of messed up here making this plural. Okay. There were little mistakes like that, so just be careful because that's the kind of thing I was telling you in my last email. I don't want these kinds of like consistent mistakes to be what's costing you the 7. Okay, like if an examiner keeps seeing like throughout a paragraph some things repeatedly done wrong, that could keep you from getting a 7. Okay, so just be aware of that. All right, so we covered the rest of it, and so yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I think it's close. I really do. You're just gonna have to really just kind of tweak some of the errors happening here. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at this wonderful rainfall diagram. Rainfall, you've got 36 pieces of information. I'm super curious to see what you did here. The line graph illustrates monthly rainfall in England, Scotland, and Wales in 2018. Units are measured in milliliters. Fine. Overall, the amount of rainfall varied throughout the year in all countries, with the wettest month being July and the wettest country being England. Perfect. I like that. That's really very good. Rainfall in England was undulating around the 100 ml mark, never exceeding the 150 ml or dropping below 50 ml. So let's fix this. I don't like undulating, partially because it's not a task one word. The word we use in task one is fluctuate. Okay, so that would have been a much better word here. Uh, Rainfall in England fluctuated around the 100 ml mark, never exceeding 150 ml or dropping below 50. That's it. Get rid of the too. The months with the most rainfall recorded were July, September, and December, all with numbers around 125. The least rainfall was measured in June and October, both with a range of 100 to 100. Wait, 50 to 100. Okay. In June, it was roughly 75. In October, it was approximately 85. I don't know why we're talking about October and June. I don't get that. Hold on. I'm so confused about this. Let's see. Hold on a second. So we're talking about England, right? England, England, England. The lowest. Okay, the lowest was here, June. I mean, that's pretty clear. So I wouldn't even have talked about October, to tell you the honest truth. I'll tell you what I would have talked about. So now here's the thing. You said it never dropped below 50. In all actuality, it never dropped below 75. So that would have been even more accurate. So this was fine. And then the least rainfall was measured in June at roughly 75 ml. Done. Don't even mention October. Not worth it for me. I'll tell you what is worth it for me. What's worth it for me is for you to mention January. And I'm going to explain why at the end after I've read everything you wrote. So basically, as far as your description of England is concerned, I would have taken away October entirely and I would have mentioned January. Like I said, I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay. The amount of rain in Scotland and Wales went below the 50 ml mark and over the 100 ml mark a couple of times and measured larger ups and downs compared to England. Again, don't use the word ups and downs, say fluctuation. It's okay. In Scotland, the lowest rainfall was recorded in February, followed by April, with both numbers under 50 ml. In February, Scotland had less than 25 ml of rainfall, in contrast to approximately 40 in April. Okay. The driest month in Wales was April, with a rainfall of about 25, followed by a plateau between August and October, measuring around 40. The most rainfall in Scotland was in March and October, both slightly above 125, while the third wettest was July, measuring around 110. In Wales, the wettest time of the year was by far was July, scoring just above 125, followed by May and November. Okay. I had a hard time with this paragraph. You have so much information that honestly, you lost me. I really would not have done it like this. I would not have put Scotland and Wales together. Yeah, I realize that we typically recommend a 2-paragraph detail. Let me try that again. A 2-paragraph description of the detail. That's what I wanted to say. I don't think this was effective because you lost me. You have to remember something, Andy. The person reading this should be able to more or less visualize what it is you're looking at just from your description. Okay. And I know that's hard to do, but how can I say this? I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't picture the data you were looking at. I couldn't even imagine it. Okay. So that's what I want to talk to you about, like how I would do this. Now, the other thing I talked to you here was I thought you needed to mention January and you didn't. So let me tell you now at this point how I would approach this. You know what I want to do? I want to make it a little bigger because, eyesight. Let's see, what did I do here? I think I did something silly. Oh, that was not helpful. All right, hold on. Let me try it again. Here we go. That's better. All right. So, when I look at this, I see a story, and when I say I see a story, there are too many things going on in my devices. Sorry about that. So, when I say I see a story, I mean I see the story of rain in 2018. Okay, and every story needs to have some key components. It needs to have a beginning, it needs to have an end, and of course, it needs some important stuff in the middle. Okay, so if I were telling this story, the first place I would start with actually is Scotland. Why? Because it starts the year with the highest rain. And I would say that. I would say that Scotland had the highest rainfall of the three countries in January at approximately 125 ml. It reached its lowest point the following month at whatever number that is, like 20, only to reach the first of two peaks in March at 140. I don't know. Okay. The next 6 months experienced considerable fluctuation before the second peak in October, and Scotland ended the year at just over 100 ml. Done. Then I would go to England, and I would say what you did. I like that it had the least variation of the three. Okay, I would say that it started here at 110, had the lowest point in June at around 75, and then it had three peaks of, what is that, 135 in July and September and December, where it ended the year. Done. Then you can imagine what I would do with Wales. Okay, again, the lowest starting point, lowest point here, okay, the highest point here, this plateau, and then done. It ended the year just slightly higher than where it began. So that's how I would do it. And you can see that it's not super, super detailed. In my overview, I would most certainly mention that all three experienced considerable fluctuation. I like what you did in your overview, but remember, this is a story, okay? The way you told it, it didn't feel like a story, and I kind of got lost. Because again, remember, there's 36 pieces of information. So you've got to be able to pull that information, the key information, in a way that makes sense for your reader. All right, Andy? So guess what? You do get another essay set from us. So go ahead and get started with that. I'm really going to try my hardest to get it to you before your exam. I'm really going to do everything humanly possible, even though I think I told you I'm traveling. So go ahead and get started on that. And, let me know if this feedback today makes sense to you. Okay? Looking forward to hearing from you. Good luck.